boy starts every time I try to talk. He's trying to outdo me is what he is. Genesis chapter 11. Now, while the earth used the same language and the same words, the whole earth used the same language and same words, it came about as they journeyed east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. I want to point out a thing before we get any farther. In the previous chapter, it talks about the descendants of Shem, and talks about their different tribes and their different languages. And then we get to this next chapter, and it says that everybody talks the same. You'll find several occasions in the book of Genesis where it'll relate a whole story about something, and in the next story, some of it happened previous to that other story. And so, evidently, this happened later. I mean, before God changing the language, this happened before it wrote about this different languages. But at this time, in chapter 11, it says everybody spoke the same language. It came about, verse 3. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they used brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. They said, "Come, let us build for ourselves a city and a tower whose top will reach into heaven. And let's make for ourselves a name, otherwise we will be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." Now, what's wrong with building a tower? We've got towers today, all kinds of them.
You don't have one that reaches to heaven.
Don't have one to reach the heavens, okay? According to some history part that I've read, it was not uncommon for that part of the world to build big monuments of that style, kind of like what we think of as the pyramids today. You know, things with steps of them. But here they had determined they were going to build a tower all the way to heaven, and they were all together because everybody could communicate. They'd all had a plan, and they were all making it together. But and so God says, God, the next verse 2, God comes down to see what's going on. So the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. The Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they all have the same language. And this is what they begin to do. And now nothing which they purpose to do will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, so that they will not understand one another's speech." So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city.
Virgil,
Yes.
back up there in those verses 3 and 4,
Okay.
they say, "Come, let us
Yes.
build ourselves a city." And later on, it says, "so that we can make a name for ourselves." There's the problem.
Yes.
And, this basically is not much different than what happened at the end of Adam and Eve's stay in the garden. Was they were seeking to exalt themselves to the level of God.
Okay.
Because that's what Satan, said to them. He said, in the moment that you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then you will become like God.
Yeah, you know right from wrong. You become like God, yeah.
And so this is a different way of putting the effort forth of exalting themselves to be on the level of God.
Okay.
There's also modern day Baghdad with as well.
Do I now?
This is the tower, the ruins of modern day Baghdad, Iraq. That's
Okay. Okay. Now, Leland and I have been discussing this, and it says that he confused their language. And that's all the scripture says. But you have Noah, and you have 3 sons, and from those 3, all the world has been populated. Everybody on the earth today could trace themselves, if they were traced, back to one of those 3. The question is, how did we get so many types of people? Now, we're all people. We got people who are Asian, we got people who are Native American, we got people who are Caucasian, we got people who are African, and all sorts of variations in between. But yet, if you believe the scriptures, we are all descendants of those 3 guys and their wives. Where did we all come from? How did we get so much variation? Anybody ever stop and think about that?
But all of those variations are grouped into 3 different categories.
Okay.
You got your Mongoloids, which would be Russian, and the Chinese, and all the way through, including the Native Americans. You got your Caucasian, and then you got your dark skin.
Okay.
Everybody fits within one of those 3 categories.
Okay. Well, that's
I think those 3 categories go back to Noah's 3 sons.
okay. We do know that Ham's descendants became Canaanites, and Shem's descendants became Israelites. But there'd be a little bit of variation, but not much there. My thinking of this, it's different from Leland's. This is according to the philosophy of Virgil Cantrell. It's not found anywhere else. But anyway, so my thinking is God could have as easily, when He confused their languages, confused the way that people they look, so they would be more easy to recognize somebody who they could talk to. Everybody follow me on that?
I got a map in the back of my Bible, and it shows the areas of each, Japheth, Ham, and Shem.
Okay.
So, like, the north people all came from Japheth. Ham was, I guess it'd be Africa.
Okay.
And then, of course, Shem would be all the other ones.
Okay. Yes, sir.
God made Adam and Eve.
Yes.
So we're all from Adam and Eve, so he must have changed people after that himself. Because it was all the same from Adam and Eve today, like it was. We're all,
Yeah.
Well, here's another possibility on that too. Is simply the fact that, here, these people are very self-centered, not really acknowledging God. I mean, they're we're talking about probably several hundred years in as far as the time frame is concerned, but it's going back to a people that seem to be pretty self-centered and godless. I mean, they're not acknowledging God's part in it in any way.
That's
So,
true, yeah.
number one, he confuses their language. And number two, could be just a demonstration of God's power and his will to demonstrate to these people, I'm in control of what you look like and what you talk like and everything like that, instead of you being in control. And that is a principle that, I mean, how long have we been struggling with that principle?
Yeah.
We're still doing that today. And I think that as far as their ethnicity or their color or anything like that, I just don't have any worries about where they came from or how they evolved, I hesitate to use that word, into, different colors of skin, because for one thing, not only do you have the African American, but you also have the Middle Eastern color of skin that many times is very dark, but doesn't have the same features as
Yeah.
the African. And then you go into the Orientals, and you go from a very light skinned Oriental, like in the northern part of the Orient, to a darker skinned Oriental person in the southern hemisphere. And so you have this melting pot, really, of colors that really are very closely connected in one way or another. And so I just think it's God's demonstration of his power, and the fact that, as he talked about David, God doesn't look at the outside, he looks
That's
at the
right.
heart.
And talking about all the different variations of people, it also serves God's purpose in that we don't all get together. It's always been and it's don't anybody misunderstand me. It's I'm the most unprejudiced person there is. But that has been the source of wars and discriminations and everything else, because somebody don't look just like me. I don't like him. And that's basically that. The whole world is in a system like that. So and so, they're darker than I am, or they're lighter than I am, or everybody's taller than I am. But anyway, you see what I'm trying to say. That's how history will back me up on this. That many of the wars that we've had has been over. I don't like them because they speak a different language, or because they're a different color than we are.
But it's never been with
Going back to the language aspect, if you and I were dropped in some huge airport somewhere else in the world, we're not gonna be looking for a white guy. We're gonna be looking for somebody that speaks English.
Okay.
Now, if we find a bunch that speak English, then we start trying to migrate toward those that we resemble.
Okay.
I think it all hinges off this aspect of confusing the languages, and you take those three classifications of human, and then you start kind of mixing them up, and then we can get all the deviations in the world.
Okay. Yeah.
And as far as your comment about fighting those that don't look like us, one of the huge deals are those that don't believe like us.
Yes. You're right.
And that goes all the way back to the biblical time.
Yeah, they've been fighting over there ever since Isaac and Ishmael's and what have you, all those different tribes. Bob had something to say. Go on.
Not just over there when Cortez got here.
Yes.
He didn't want to become a Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob, you had
Well,
something.
and we can kind of look at it from a little bit later on in history, when, even the seed line of Jesus included Ruth. What was she?
She was a Moabite, I
Moabite.
believe. Yeah.
And so that demonstrates to us that, as far as ethnicity and color of skin and the outward appearance of man, really doesn't make God, he doesn't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
He cares about the heart. And hopefully somewhere along the line, we will, as a people, embrace that principle that originates from God, that we'll stop looking at skin and we'll start looking at the heart.
Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on it? Verse 9. Therefore the name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the whole earth. Okay? And Babel would probably be short for Babylon now, but it's all in the same area. But the Babel, I mean, what is it? If somebody's babbling, what are they?
You can't understand it.
Can't understand them. Kind of like me with these new teeth. They adjust them the other day. I can eat now, but I still can't talk very plain. So, yeah, little baby's all babble. But one that growls. But anyway, does his dad, James? Does his daddy growl all the time too? Is that that's where he learned that from? Okay, a lot of it. Okay, but. Then it goes on to list the generation of Shem. We're not going to read all those hard to pronounce names. But it gets us all the way from Shem to Abraham. Okay, once we leave Abraham, what is the next logical step we get to? In the whole scheme of God's plans. It's not in this particular chapter here. Well, once we leave Abraham, where does that lead us to? It leads us to Jacob, doesn't it? Which leads us on to Moses, and then it will lead us on to Christ. And you can, there are, I believe there's at least two, and that's all I can think of, genealogies that trace back to Christ. And they all go through Abraham. That's what this genealogy here, Shem goes to Abraham. Because it's through Abraham that God makes the promise that all the world will be blessed. And that his seed will become as the sands on the seashore and the stars in the sky. Of course, Jesus is whom all the world is blessed through. But it's through Shem and then through Abraham and then the rest of the way through. Speaking of, Bob mentioned Ruth a while ago. The Bible doesn't go into lots of details about very many women in the Scriptures. Ruth is one of them. She got her own book. Ruth was a Moabitess. She was not even of the tribes of Israel. Her and one other lady are listed in the genealogy of Christ. Who? Rahab. What was Rahab's former occupation? She was a harlot. So the two ladies that are mentioned in the genealogy of Christ, one was not of the right tribe, and the other was definitely not of the right tribe, and then had a bad previous occupation.
When it comes to the physical, though, Mary is most important.
Okay. Yeah. But here we go. What we bring these two out is to prove that, and as Bob mentioned that God does not necessarily worry about what color we are or what we look like. It's the kind of person that we are, and that's what proved. Rahab, even though she had a bad occupation, she protected the spies, and they told her she made them promise whenever they came back that save her house. He said, put everybody in this house and tie a scarlet ribbon around the window, and her house was the only one that didn't crumble. Okay, our time is up. We didn't get very far, but let's start on verse 26 next time.